Welcome back to class. Of course, this class is sponsored by Isaac Humanitarian Foundation. Today we shall be looking at monarchy as a system of government. Now, if you trace the origin of monarchy, this system of government can be traced down to the era of the Greek city-states, talking about the Greek city-state of Sparta. The etymology of the word monarchy is from the Greek word monarchia, which means the rulership of one. The rulership of one. In some climes, it has been said to be absolute rule. So basically, monarchy, a system of government, is that which the power of government is given to just one person, usually known as a monarch. I'll tell that again. It's a system of government where the powers of government is vested on a single individual, usually known as a monarch. Now, just going by what is obtainable in certain political climes, the monarch can be referred to as a king or queen, of course, as in the case of the Queen of England. The monarch can be referred to as an emperor. We're talking about Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, or an empress, as the case may be. Speaking within the Nigerian context, the monarch can even be called an Oba, an Obi, depending on the local name for the political head of a monarchical structure. So always remember that monarchy as a system of government, got its roots from the Greek city-state of Sparta. The word monarchy is from the Greek word monarchia, meaning the rulership of one, or in some cases, absolute rule, talking about the powers of government vested on a single individual, usually known as the monarch. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two types of monarchy, and they include, number one, absolute monarchy, and number two, constitutional monarchy. Do not forget that the institution known as monarchy has two types. The first one is absolute, the other is constitutional. Another word for absolute monarchy can be referred to as total monarchy. In this case, the monarch has powers so excessive and it cannot be regulated by an institution or by a person. Simply put, the powers of the monarch is far-reaching and without limits. In Africa, there is a state that has an absolute monarch. That state is referred to as the Kingdom of Eswatini. The Kingdom of Eswatini, also known as Swaziland. Swaziland is in the southern part of Africa. And looking at its political history, Swaziland was colonized by Great Britain and was accorded political independence on September 6, 1968. Ladies and gentlemen, so an absolute monarch is one that has total power, and his powers are far-reaching. You see, in France, during the reign of King Louis XIV, you see, Louis XIV was so powerful that at some point he made the infamous statement, "L'État, c'est moi," meaning I am the state. It was the excessive abuse of power by Louis XIV, as it were, that led to the decline and fall of monarchy in the French political structure, and gave birth to a republican system. So the monarch under this structure has excessive power. And of course, in history, you know that Louis XIV and his wife, Mary Antoinette, were killed using the machine that was developed by Dr. Joseph Ignace Guillotin, called the guillotine machine. Their heads were chopped off, and of course that led to the end of the French monarchy and the rise of the French republican system. The flip side of absolute monarchy, you would have what you call the constitutional monarchy, in which case the powers of the monarch is determined and regulated by the constitution. The power of the monarch is regulated by the constitution. His words are not yea and amen. His words are not final. Basically, in this system, the monarch performs more or less a ceremonial function. An example of a constitutional monarch is Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth is a very good example of a monarch acting under, constitutional responsibilities, as opposed to an absolute monarchy where the monarch has supreme authority, supreme powers. There are so many countries that practices a constitutional monarchical system. For instance, Belgium. In Belgium, there is a constitutional monarch. Okay, so having said that, it is important to note that in a monarchy, powers can be gotten through two major ways. Number one, inheritance. This is a very important mode of power transmission in the monarchical system, and that is where the first offspring of the monarch automatically is the monarch in waiting. For instance, in the Benin Kingdom, the first son of the Oba automatically becomes king at the transition of the present monarch. Right? And it's the same thing in the British monarchy, where the first offspring becomes the next monarch. However, this is not the only way by which power is transmitted or is transferred in the monarchy. Another one is by election or selection. If you look at the old Oyo Empire, you see power transmission in the old Oyo Empire is by selection. The ruling Alafin, his first son, who is known as the Agemo, does not become king at the transition of the Alafin. What we have is that the king makers, referring to the Oyo Mesi, headed by the Bashom, the Oyo Mesi, they will now select the next Alafin by consulting with Ifa, and they have candidates from ruling houses. They consult with Ifa and they choose the next Alafin. So in this case, power is not by inheritance, rather it is by selection. This also plays out in choosing of the Oni, of course, of Ife, and the Emir of Kano. It is not by inheritance, rather it is by selection. So always remember that the two major ways of power transmission in a monarchy is one, inheritance, two, by selection. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget that monarchy is a system of government where absolute power is given to one person, usually known as the monarch. And a monarch can be called a king, can be called a queen, can be called an emperor, can be called an empress. Now, in a political system where the highest monarchical office is that of a prince or a princess, such a system is called a principality. For instance, in Monaco, the highest monarchical office is that of the prince. Hence, the full name of Monaco is referred to as the Principality of Monaco. Did you get that? And do not forget that also in some, did you know that the full name, because every country must have a conventional long name and a conventional short name. For instance, Nigeria, our conventional long name is the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Conventional short name, Nigeria. Another example, China. Conventional long name is the People's Republic of China. Conventional short name, China. What you call Belgium, the conventional long name is the Kingdom of Belgium. The moment you have the word kingdom coming before the name of the country, then you should know that automatically there is a monarch in that state. What you call Spain, the full name is the Kingdom of Spain. Meaning that in Spain there is a king, although not an absolute monarch. Do you understand that? So always remember that monarchy is a system where power, it could be absolute, it could be ceremonial, but it is vested on one person, usually known as what? As the monarch. In Nigeria today, all the monarchs in Nigeria, every single one of them, with exception of none, they are all ceremonial monarchs. And it must surprise you to know that the Constitution of Nigeria, the 1999 Constitution, does not accord any responsibility to monarchs within the Nigerian states. So they perform basically ceremonial functions. Very first, features of monarchy. Number one, power is held for life. As opposed to democracy and a parliamentary system or presidential system where we have a tenure-based system, or a republic where you have people occupying office for a particular period of time and power is transferred to them at the end of their tenure. In monarchy, power is held by the monarch for life. It is a lifelong office. The monarch, however, can leave office through two ways. Number one, if he decides to abdicate the throne, that is the monarch voluntarily resigning all his powers, be it ceremonial, be it absolute, and leaves the throne, is called abdication. That is him leaving the seat, and of course another person coming into the political stage. Another one is through impeachment. Yes, your guess is as good as mine. Monarchs can be impeached. If you look at the old Oyo Empire, you would agree that the Alaafin was operating under a system of checks and balances. He was not an absolute monarch, he was a constitutional monarch. And the Ojo Mesi had powers to remove the Alaafin, of course, by giving him a calabash that contains rotten parrot eggs, in which case the Alaafin is required by law to commit suicide. That is the Alaafin being checked in his ceremonial capacity, in which case he's not holding power for life. So always remember that yes, power can be held for life. However, there is a limitation to that rule. One, abdication. Two, impeachment. Number two, under features of monarchy, power is vested on a single individual. The power of the government is given to one single person known as the monarch. And of course, he has other people by way of chiefs and aides working with him. So power is given to a single individual known as what? The monarch. Number three. Don't forget, the first one is power is held for life. Number two, power is given to a single individual. Number three, power is mostly transferred through inheritance. I have explained this point earlier, so I just quickly go on to the next one. Number four, it's a system that deals with culture and tradition. It's a system that deals with culture and tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, monarchy is a traditional institution. Monarchs, one, act as spiritual heads, and they also act as political head. A monarch is the custodian of the laws and tradition. He respects, he preserves the laws and traditions of his people. So monarchy is built extensively on the culture and tradition of the people. Very fast, let's look at advantages and disadvantages of monarchy. We'll take two of each for sake of time. Under advantage number one, it allows for even development. It allows for even development. The monarch sees all parts of the kingdom as his, and of course distributes, wealth to ensure even development. This is something that you do not find in a democracy. For instance, it has been duly recorded that some elected office holders will decide not to develop some constituencies because they did not vote for him during a particular election. That is by way of punishment. Or he decides not to, appoint people from such a constituency into his government because he was not voted for by them. But in a monarchy, the monarch sees every part of the kingdom as his, is order to all, and as such ensures equal distribution of wealth. Number two, because of time, another important advantage of monarchy is that what? Political stability. Political stability. We do not have political conflicts. There is no violence occasioned by elections. We do not have tension of campaigns and political party clashes and violence occasioned by electioneering activities. What we have is the people paying loyalty, unrivaled loyalty to a monarch. This ensures for political stability. This ensures for peace, progress, justice, equality, and equity. And under disadvantages of monarchy, number one, it is undemocratic. It is undemocratic. In which case, the people do not have a say as who becomes their leader. Whoever is forced on them, be him a non-entity, be him an imbecile, be him whatever, be him a notorious criminal, whatever, they have to just obey without questioning. This goes against their political rights of choosing for themselves those that will govern them and manage their affairs in government. So this is an undemocratic aspect of monarchy. It does not allow the people to choose. And last but not the least, another disadvantage of monarchy is the fact that it can encourage despotism. It can encourage despotism, or it can encourage dictatorship. An absolute monarch that does not respect checks and balances, or better still, there's no set of checks and balances, can grow into becoming a despot, can become tyrannical, and this may lead to can lead to human rights abuses. So one major disadvantage of monarchy, especially an absolute monarchy, is that it can lead to despotism. I mentioned earlier the kingdom of Eswatini. It may surprise you to know that the king of Eswatini, who is an absolute monarch, is richer than the state. He marries women at will. He has, if I'm not wrong, he has over 13 wives. Alright? And he uses state resources for his personal aggrandizement. And of course, being an absolute monarch, his words are J, final, and amen. Hope you enjoyed this class. Thank you very much. See you some other time.